Hey everybody, it's Roger, creator of the Azure Sandbox, and in this video we're going to walk through the extra configuration that's part of the Azure Sandbox for provisioning a collection of virtual machines for use by developers. This is turning into be a very popular configuration that several of my customers are using, so I thought I would clean it up and record a little video to show you all how it works. Okay, so first thing that we're going to do is we're going to navigate up to the Azure Sandbox using our handy dandy vanity URL. So I will do https aka.ms/Azure Sandbox. And as usual, that takes us to the Azure Sandbox section in the Azure Architecture Center. And if you go down to this deployment section, you can navigate over to GitHub using any one of these links here. So here's the GitHub configuration for the Azure Sandbox, where all the source code is located. And what we're going to do is we're going to navigate down here to extras. And there's a few different extras that are published along with the Sandbox. These are obviously optional configurations that you can add on top of the Sandbox to do different things. The configuration that we're going to talk through today is this second extra configuration called VM DevOps for implementing a collection of identical IaaS virtual machines designed to be used as developer workstations. So we'll go ahead and navigate down into there. So we're here at extras, VM DevOps, and we'll just kind of walk through the documentation here and we'll actually do a deployment. So what this configuration does architecturally is it just drops, a variable number of developer workstations into a subnet. So thankfully we have the Azure Sandbox already set up with all the networking configured. It's got DNS running. It's got a domain controller. It's got all kinds of things a developer could use. It's got an Azure Files file share. It's got, optional databases that you can add. So there's a lot there for a developer, right? So you could drop your developer workstations right into the Azure Sandbox. That's what I'm going to demonstrate today. But you can also take this configuration and use it in your own environment. You don't have to deploy the Azure Sandbox to use this. You can use it in your actual Azure environment as well. Okay, so these two developer workstations are going to make use of a few things in the Sandbox. Obviously, the subnet, I already talked about that. We'll just drop it into SNet app, which is the same place where we have our Windows and our Linux jump box. And it also makes use of the storage account. So we push some scripts onto these VMs to automate some of the post-deployment configuration tasks, like expanding the OS disk to a larger size, or initializing, partitioning, and formatting the data disks on those machines. Those are all things that we have to do using a script. So we push the script up into the storage account during a bootstrapping process. And then as these VMs are being provisioned, after the disks get attached, it pulls that script down and runs it, and it automates all of that configuration for you. And that script is something that you can add things to in your own environment if you like. So if you need to build and tear down these VMs multiple times, it really is helpful to make some customizations there and save yourself a lot of work. Okay. The other thing that we use in the sandbox environment is we use the automation account. We use that to configure the software and also domain join these VMs. So we're going to use Azure Automation Desired State Configuration to do that piece. We also use the Key Vault to pull some secrets. As you provision these VMs, you need to be able to domain join them. So we need to be able to go get those credentials in a safe and secure fashion using Key Vault. And we also need to configure the local administrator on those developer VMs. So we'll also get those secrets from Key Vault as well. So once the VMs are provisioned, thankfully in our sandbox, we have a Bastion host, and we can use the Bastion host to connect to them. We can even create custom links using Bastion and hand them off to your developers so that they can have a link to get right in as opposed to having to go through the Azure portal. So this is really useful for any organization that has, like, say contractor developers or offshore developers where you need to stamp out a bunch of VMs for them to do their work. Okay. All right. So that's kind of a high level about this particular configuration. So in the next video, what we'll do is we'll walk through let's do the prerequisites now. So the prerequisites required are an Azure subscription, a resource group, a subnet to drop these VMs into, a storage account that has a container in it called scripts. That's where we're going to stick that script that we'll pull using the custom script extension to configure the VMs. If you are using the Azure Storage Firewall, you'll obviously need to modify that to ensure that whoever's provisioning this configuration, that their IP address is whitelisted, and you'll also want to add the virtual network that you're dropping the developer VMs into so that they can go download that script to the storage firewall. You'll need an automation account. You'll need a service principal that has contributor privileges on the subscription that you're using. So there's some code here for how to provision one of those if you don't already know how to do it. Excuse me. I just need to cough real quick. Okay, I'm back. I think I'm back recording. Yes. That service principal needs to be provisioned in advance, and it needs to have a contributor RBAC role assignment on the subscription. You're also going to need to have a Key Vault provisioned in advance with some secrets. So these first two are for the local administrator for the developer VMs, and these second two are going to be used to domain join the developer VMs. And then finally, there needs to be a secret in there for the storage account to download those configuration scripts at provisioning time. And so what you do is you just name the secret the same name as the storage account that you want to use. And then the value of the secret should be the storage account key. Okay? So that's high level, a little bit about the architecture of this configuration and some of the use cases. And then also some of the prerequisites that you need to have in place. Fortunately for us, we have an Azure Sandbox deployed. So we basically have most of these prerequisites ready to roll, and it'll be really easy to deploy this configuration. So we'll pick up in the next video with the Getting Started section. Thanks, everybody.